Hey guys, how's it going? And straight off the bat, I want to apologize for my last two videos sounding very tired and just kind of boring and dull. I was really overstressed the last couple of weeks. I was just trying to get some videos out for people to watch, show off some of the replays that I had before they went bad, and I did a really poor job on that, and I want to apologize to those of you who didn't actually enjoy it as much. But today, I have a replay that I got just before the game patch to 5.9, and this was my first game in the Udaloi. I have it partially upgraded. I have the second hull and the gun upgrades and a fully retrained captain, but if you look really close, what did I forget? Flags and camouflage. Two things that these destroyers definitely make very good use of. And while that's not really going to hurt me as much in this game because there isn't a huge amount of enemy destroyers, the 0.3 detection that the camouflage itself takes off the Udaloi, bringing it down from 8.3 to 8 flat, is actually fairly useful if you want to torpedo other destroyers with your 8-kilometer torpedoes. And for now, I'm just kind of sticking with the fleet. I kind of changed my playstyle from the Kiev when I got the Tashkent, which turns very slowly, and I realized why people call it the Trash Kent because it feels painful to play. But after playing this ship a lot, I absolutely love it. It feels just like the Kiev to me. It's really strong, and I have just amazing games with it. And you're going to see that this game as me and the Mahan that's on my team absolutely dominate the cap zones that we sit in and work together to just crush the enemy team as they try to push and take the cap zone away from us. But to start off, the Mahan has spotted an enemy Fubuki and B-cap, and I am turning in to kind of provide some long range support if I can get my guns in range. I'd really like to, but of course I don't have the upgraded gunfire control systems that would give me 14 kilometers of range. And these guns are actually very accurate at long range too. It's not like the American guns where they can arc to the moon and back before you actually hit something, or miss because the ship has moved away from where your shots were aimed. These have a fairly cruiser-like trajectory, which is why you actually see me sitting back with the cruisers at the start, because that was my playstyle back with the Tashkent. I didn't play it very aggressively because it didn't really have the firepower or the health to back it up. And the Udaloi kinda does. I mean, you can really compete at your tier for toe-to-toe fighting with other destroyers as long as you can dodge their torpedoes, which will really screw you over, as I've found out quite a few times. And I'm moving in to kinda help the Mahan against this York. I really enjoy long-range dueling cruisers in this ship just because they can't touch me once I start turning. And especially York with its little bit higher arcing high explosive shells, it won't have as much of an effective fire arc on my ship as say a Shores or a Chapayev or even a Mogami would have. And right now I'm just resetting it. I'm trying to start a fire to ward off that ship from the Mahan, as he has just popped his damage control from the bombers, and I took out torpedoes and something else, so I'm not quite sure what, but he got hammered by something behind me. And there he goes for the first blood. One enemy cruiser down. Ooh, there's a battleship and two destroyers, so that's not good because that's a Fletcher. And Fletchers are very scary if they can catch an Udaloi at close range, because you don't turn out very well because you're Russian, you have a wide turning radius, so he does have the edge in close range torpedo fights, and he also has that really high rate of fire, and at close range American destroyers can make a really good use of that, and you definitely don't want to get caught close to them. If you do, you want to turn, make your actions unpredictable, and get to where his guns are arcing and yours aren't, so you can just pound away at him while he misses all of his shots. And looks like our team is pushing in with us. They really want to capture this cap along with us, as they have two destroyers supporting us. Not us, them. We have the cruiser and the battleship supporting us. And of course the carrier every once in a while. but they have taken B and C, and we are now pushing in to try to help them. Or not help the enemy team, take it back. We're not red, we are green. And that Nagato is not moving very fast. Hope he likes some fires, because that's exactly what I want to do to him. And torpedoes from... wow, those are coming from C. Interesting. Wonder if there's a destroyer over there. Might have just been planes that I didn't see, but hard telling not knowing. Let's not take the risk quite yet. Also, without the upgraded fire control module, you cannot stealth fire with Russian destroyers. Or at least the Udaloi. When you do get it, you have about 0.5 kilometer stealth without taking the tier 5 concealment module, or not module, captain skill. I always take the module because these things are pretty easy to detect anyway. But as you can see, the enemy battleships are kind of lined up for me. I'm popping my smoke and staying on the edge of the cap. I jumped out of it a little bit, but I'm staying there to help cap the point faster and ensure that we take it away from this enemy team. And there's a nice fire for that North Carolina as I try to kill him, and oh shit. Those are a destroyer's worst friend, or at least if you're a Russian destroyer, those are your worst friend right there. But thankfully, even though I would have dodged them, they don't have the range to hit me. And while this North Carolina isn't quite within my 8-kilometer torpedo range yet, he is sailing towards me, which is making me consider firing the torpedoes to either spook him into going broadside for another ship, or actually getting a torpedo into him. And if he does go broadside, as you've seen in one of my other Udaloi videos that a user had sent in, which actually inspired me to play the Russian destroyers, the armor piercing on these things is massively strong if they can get you broadside. They don't do a ton of damage, they might do maybe 3,000 max, but that fast fire rate can really catch some players off guard. And it seems like I'm having a little bit of frame rate issue here. I noticed that after the patch and before it slightly, but for now we can continue pounding away at this North Carolina as I do my usual zoom in, zoom out to make sure I'm not in the way of anything, or to make sure there aren't torpedoes or anything heading towards me. And like many good battleships, the North Carolina drove in a straight line, tried to turn at the last moment, and sucked on one of my torpedoes, which turned him broadside to our friend in the Mahan over there, who launched a perfect spread to catch him right in the side and take him out. So there goes the enemy North Carolina. They have also lost their carrier along with the York that we sank earlier. And we are kind of getting flanked around the side. I'm not that scared of the Pensacola because he's not very close, but that Mahan scares me because he can stealth torp me and he can spot me for the rest of the ships that are backing him up. So I'm going to start pouring fire onto him a little bit preemptively because he can't really hit me accurately from here, as it looks like my friendly Mahan is doing about the same. And that's all we're going to get as he goes around the side of the rock. But I'm going to launch some torpedoes at him from my third torpedo launcher that's on the opposite side of my ship. This ship has a very similar torpedo layout as a Mahan does. It has one on each side of the ship and one in the rear that can fire on both sides. And I'm going to launch that to see if I can catch that Mahan as he comes around the side of that island and turns in towards the B cap, if he does. But in the meantime, let's chew on this Nagato that's been hanging around. So there's a fire for him. And doesn't look like he's putting it out quite yet, which is good for me. And there's a Fletcher. I'm going to see if I can get over there and try to help this North Carolina in case that Fletcher tries to bum rush him. And there's another fire for the Nagato, so he's not feeling too well right now. And he still hasn't put him out. And there goes the Fletcher. The North Carolina absolutely crushed it. So good job to him. And has that Nagato put out the fires? Nope. So he's burning nice. And that's something that is really cool about the Russian destroyers. They have a really decent fire chance. And once you can get a battleship burning, your damage is going to skyrocket. Even if it's an Iowa, if you just get him burning after he pops that damage control, you're gonna rack up the damage hard. And I'm not doing a ton since he's straight on and I'm not really firing into his superstructure. But one of the fires did go out, which leaves me another spot to reset a fire. So hopefully I can do that, unless he decides to go broadside, in which case armor piercing. And he took a massive hit and tries to fire back. One downside to the Russian destroyers that we saw right there as I penetrate through his deck and he gets slaughtered by one of our friendly ships is battleships have a fairly easy time getting normal penetrations on them. It's because of their size. They're basically small cruisers, and if a battleship shell hits you in the right spot, it's going to pen all the way through and explode inside you, dealing full damage. Not citadel damage, but full penetration damage, which is about 30% of citadel. And it can be quite painful. And that York sailed out in front of me broadside at the wrong time as I had armor piercing loaded. And goodbye to him. And now this North Carolina is kind of threatening us. We have an Indianapolis and a Mahan charging it. And he's kind of sitting on the corner. He's considering coming around into the B cap. His destroyer and cruiser escort kind of left him to chase down a friendly ship. And the Mahan has just missed torpedoes on him. And our friendly battleships aren't really close enough to support us. So I'm trying to arc some shells over to try to either set him on fire or just support our friendly ships in general. And I'm starting to charge over that way, because if I can sneak up while I'm still in stealth, he won't know I'm coming and I could get a very, very successful torpedo run off on him. And I'm rolling some nice 1000 damage rolls into him. There's a fire, which is great for me. And that Indianapolis is living surprisingly long for being against a battleship in a basically a slightly more armored Pensacola, which we all know what the armor or lack of armor on that ship is like. And here I switched to armor piercing because I'm starting to get really close and he's not quite angled to me. And I'm starting to roll about 2000 damage to me. He's noticed I'm here and he has started to straighten out. So my armor piercing isn't gonna do anything. I switch back to high explosive, start another fire. I start crossing his beam to see if I can catch him off guard with his guns. It seems I have successfully gotten under his guns to where he can't turn them with me. Come up broadside to him, drop the torpedoes into his side, and he will not be living through that. So thank you very much, North Carolina. And that is 970 points just from me and the Mahan that was sitting next to me, sitting in the B cap and defending. Sadly he went down, but we just sat there, controlled the cap for the whole game, held it out for our team. And as the game ends, I'm going to launch some rather speculative shots over at our Mahan enemy over there, but sadly those will not hit before the game ends. I don't think they would have hit anyway. So even for a first game in the ship, I absolutely loved how much this ship performed better than the Tashkent. It just felt like a throwback to the Kiev for me, and I love the Kiev too. And it's just an amazing ship, and I can't wait to get the cab because that ship looks beast too. I mean, I'm scared of that thing when I sail my Udaloi just because it's a fearful ship. And for a first game ever in a certain ship, usually you don't expect much because you're getting used to it, or it might be kind of stock so it's not going to perform as well, or you might have a commander in training. But if you kind of try to figure out the tactics that you're going to use on the ship early, or employ ones that you had used before, usually you can come out pretty successful and it'll end pretty well, as you saw in this match. And of course, rolling into the first of the end screens, 153,000 damage set a really good precedent for the start of this ship grind that I am currently doing right now. I think I am fully upgraded with about 80,000 experience on top of it. So I have a long ways to go to the tier 10, but I'm going to enjoy it the whole time, even though I think I was served my first detonation in the ship earlier today as a carrier decided I needed to die, and his first bomb that hit me at full health completely detonated my ship. So I got a bit unlucky there, but I still loved the ship right after I went and destroyed a whole team with it. And I mean, just look at the firepower it can put out. Even if you don't get the torpedoes out, 230 target hits with just the guns, something that you don't usually see in American destroyers just because of their arc, unless they're just constantly spewing shells all game. 2 ships destroyed, 9 fires set just because it's Russian. The high explosive is just fire starting mayhem. 4 floodings from the 6 torpedoes that people, I want to say, ran into, because I mean most of the time that's what ships do when they're driving towards an Udaloi, because we don't really have the stealth torpedo range. But of course most of those were from me actually torping the North Carolina at the end. 1 cap defense from resetting one of the ships, I think it was the York, and of course I captured B and held it for the whole game. So a really good result, along with a high caliber and a devastating strike, and I just really had fun. I wish I would have gotten a little bit more EXP, because I would have had the Type 3 ranked camo, which gives 100% EXP boost. I would have had the EXP boosting flag, just to get the stock grind over a little bit faster. So rather than 4,800, I probably would have had maybe 6,000, 7,000, somewhere in there. But still not a bad result for the first time out. And I definitely profited with 289,000 credits earned. Shifting over to the team list though, shows I only came in second. A Tashkent on our team actually beat us, which I think he got a lot of cap resets, but I know he was down in C fighting it out with all the other ships that went down there. So really good job to him, and really good job to our Mahan, who finished 4th even though he was a tier 7 in a tier 9 game. He really stuck it out in the B cap and was really helpful in just overall holding on to that cap with the team and controlling that zone to ensure we won the game. And I do believe that Tirpitz is the one that was in our cap too. So really good job to the teammates that I had in the B cap, who absolutely dominated that area and allowed us to win the game just from point gain most of the time. And last but not least, I wanted to show the damage values. 153,000 damage caused, but only 43,000 of that was from the main batteries themselves. 35,000 of that was from the high explosive shells, which I fired for most of the game. But as you can also see, I racked up armor piercing shells really fast. 9,000 damage in armor piercing when I only fired 42 shells of it, versus the 428 high explosive shells that I fired the entire game. I launched 25 torpedoes for 6 hits, giving me 52,000 damage in that. And of course, the glory of the Russian fleet gives me 52,000 damage in fires, thanks to setting fires after battleships or cruisers used their damage control. And 5,000 from floodings, which was mostly from that North Carolina as he came through the B cap and ran into one of my torpedoes. And then he was of course slaughtered by the Mahan, who caught him broadside. So I considered that a really good game, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I wanted to kind of show the importance of sitting there and controlling a cap as long as you had teammates backing you up. You can't just sit there and say, oh, I'm going to sit in the cap the whole game as the enemy team charges me, and oh crap, I have picked a bad fight and don't have any support and now I'm dead. You do have to have the support behind you in order to hold the cap. You can kind of deny the enemy team and move away, but in order to hold it, you have to have good teammates behind you, like the Mahan, like the Tirpitz, like the Indianapolis that was right behind us, and I do believe there was a New Orleans in there too, who just sit behind you and support you the entire game as you rain hell on the enemy team. And just going off of that, I wanted to apologize again for being tired earlier this week. I do want to change up my channel a little bit. I'm still going to do these replays, but I want to do small tutorials like intro to the ports, in case, because I know a lot of people don't know little tidbits about warships, like what do all the port functions do. I ran into a guy who didn't know that the chat could change to division chat, and he knows who he is. I'm not calling you out, it was kind of funny, but just little things in the battle, alternate battle view, I'm going to go through all the menus. I'm going to show people what I run, and I'm just going to explain stuff. I'm going to explain certain ship types, how they run. Maybe I'll do a line overview. I wanted to do that for a little bit, and I kind of want to do a few live ones. I wanted to try that and just do some live recordings, see how that goes. I can't quite stream with where I'm at, but I think live recordings are about as close as I can get. I've kind of tried it before in War Thunder. I had the Idiots in Planes series that I try to make whenever I can update the game. The first of those was live action recorded, but I don't know, it was more of a trial and error as I was messing around with one of my friends. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments, anything to offer, any replays, send them, say them, do whatever. Like, share, favorite, subscribe, who cares? Have a nice day. Enjoy everything. Sink some ships. Sink me for all I care. I want to see somebody sink me and call me out in chat. But thank you. Have a great day. And see you out there.